differently here. All right, so what I want to do then is I've got Illustrator open up and I want to do my logo based on a sketch. So I took a photograph of it and I'm going to basically place it into here. So I obviously I've already saved this to a folder, but what you're going to see is here's a sketch, and this is very typical, which is a good reason to do this. So I bring it in, I click it, and it's huge. I mean, like crazy huge. And so I've had students, so I'm what I do is when I click the zoom tool, I can hit the Alt key on my keyboard on the PC and it'll zoom out. But the problem is this thing is so big. And so sometimes students, I'll actually see them, they'll start making it really big. So let's do a couple things here. If I rotate this, if I right click on my mouse here, I can hit rotate. There's lots of other ways to do it, but let's just go ahead and rotate this thing. I'll rotate this thing 180 degrees. All right, first I'll rotate it. All right, well, so let's rotate it again. Transform, rotate, I'll say 90 degrees. Hopefully this will work. Okay, it's upside down. I'll figure it out. All right, I'll do a transform again. That'll just do. All right, there we go. So, but it's really big. So there's a couple different ways I can scale it. You'll see if you go to the menu on the right, there's a scale tool here, and you can always right click on these and it'll show you more features. You can grab it and you can just like hold the shift key down. The problem is you got to make sure that it's staying square, or there's also a way to go in here, object transform, and you can scale it in here, scale. Or you right click. So I'm going to just do 5%, just see where that goes. All right. So 5%, I'm going to put it in there. Now let's just go ahead and zoom in on this thing. All right. So there it is. It's in my layer. I have my layer turned on. If you don't remember how to turn your layer on, come down here on the window and click layer, window, and hit layer, or F7 on your keyboard. So there it is. Now, the problem that I want to go over this, but I need to lock it down. So it's in my layer. I'm just going to lock the layer and then go ahead and make a new layer. You always want to do that because that way, if you mess up, you can just turn it off or such. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And now I'm going to make this logo, and I'm going to do it really quickly just to show you the way that I would do it. So here's the pen tool. I have a sketch. It's not a very good sketch, of course, but I'm just going to start with this eye. So the company again was Brighteyes, and I was kind of using a meteor. I was 25 years old when I designed this thing. So I had this eye, it's half eye, half meteor. So I'm going to click here, and then it's white here. So if I want to change this color, I could change this to whatever, red. All right, and I'm just going to click on this line, and it really isn't even centered, so I might want to clean it up a little bit, but I'm just clicking on these lines just like we've done before, and then I'll close it. All right, so there's that part, and I'm making sure I'm on this. Now I can actually add new layers, but if I go on top, I'm good. So I'll go ahead here, and there's a circle tool, but I'll make an ellipse. I'll just click here, and I'll go over my eye there. All right, let's change this color. Let's make it like blue. All right, there it is. You notice I can turn the back, like there's a black background I can have on there. It defaults to black, or I could have none if I wanted to. That looks okay. And then I'm going to make a little highlight, which if you looked at my sketch, there's a little highlight on it. All right, that little thing there. So I'm going to put a little highlight on there. So let's do that. And so it's going on top because that's what it's always going to go on top. And so I'll make this yellow. So let me just kind of show you, if you wanted that to go behind it, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can select it and actually right click and say send back, arrange, send back. That's not very helpful. The other thing you can do is I find sometimes if you just cut it, Control X, or edit paste, edit cut, and then edit paste, it'll actually it'll go right on top of everything. All right, so that's another way. So let's put it back here. Let's turn this off. Right there it is. All right, so far so good. Now I'm going to make this eyeball shape, and again, the pen tool, less is more. So I'm going to select the pen tool, and I will just simply click on this here, and I'm going to little bit deviate from it. I'll go maybe to here. You'll notice if I kind of like not click on there, but you'll see where the center is, right? So there's the center. So I could go here, click it, and hold it, right? And there's going to be that part. I didn't do a good job. Let's do that again. So I'm going to take my pen tool. I'll click. Let's start with the inside one. Click, and I'll click and hold. All right. Click and hold. All right. And then, and I can play around with a lot of this later. All right, so you get the idea. Couple things I need to fix. Let's change the color. So let's make this black if you want here, black. Okay, so it's black. If you notice, though, a couple things are bad on this. If I look real carefully, let's turn the background off. If I look at this, I got this weird, like, that's supposed to be straight. Now, if I select the black arrow, it moves the whole thing. But if I select the white arrow, it actually gives me these coordinates again. And then what I can do is I should be able to go to properties. You'll notice up here, there's properties. I can change it from a curve to a straight one, right? So if you notice, I can do that. I can also add anchor points just by selecting the pen tool. If I want to add another point on there and move it, a white arrow. If I was like, oh, that's a bad idea, I can also go in here. So I can right click on there and say delete anchor point, get rid of it. And then I could go with my arrow and I could try to clean this up again and do whatever I need. So I'm clicking on that, and I call these little love handles here splines, just like CAD, and let's just clean that up. All right. So I did this very quick and dirty, right? So I can zoom in. So you notice, because it's a vector or a spline, there's no pixels, right? So it's a really nice, nice smooth line. I can zoom in a gazillion, 10,000. All right, so view, let's, all right, so we're good here. Let me zoom out. All right, so there it is. And so now what I want to do is, what I don't want to do is save this as, I'll show you what you don't want to do. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save this as an Illustrator file, first of all, right? So it's an Illustrator file. I can work on it. Cool. That's great. So you can either save as an Illustrator or a PDF. Illustrator is kind of the native. Now, there it is, right? So there it is, okay. Problem is, I can't really bring this. So what I want to do is this. Here's my box, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the logo into the box, but I can't really just cut and paste it. It's kind of complicated because what you're going to see, it's a lot of little pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. First I'm going to show you how not to do it. So everybody's like, okay, so let's just go ahead and export this as a JPEG, right? So let's see what happens if I do it as a JPEG. So JPEG, export it. All right, so there it is. I'm going to take my box. All right, so I'm going to go back to my box. I'm going to go File, and I'll place my logo. So I'm going to place it as a JPEG. What you're going to see, though, is it's got this white background, right? And so I can't get rid of it. That doesn't help me. So what you want to do is in your logo, you actually want to save it as what's called a PNG file. And the reason is when you export something as a PNG file, it has what's called an alpha channel. So there's CMYK and there's an alpha channel, which is basically nothing. And so you're going to notice here, if you see the checkerboard, that I say this is 300 ppi, but there's a checkerboard behind it. So you see background transparent, and I'll say, okay. And so now when I bring it in, so now I'll say, okay, file, place, I'm going to bring in my logo, the PNG logo, and I'm going to say place it. And if you notice now, there's no white background. And I can also hold my shift key down, I can scale it, or I can right click and I can do whatever I want to do. So I can rotate it, reflect it. You know, I've got all these features that I can do. So, and then of course I could add a new layer. I probably want to add a new layer anyway. So let's just say you've got a layer here. I'm going to call this logo. But you know, right now though, it's not on that layer. So there's things you can do. You can right click and you can say, let's say arrange. And so what you want to do is select the logo wherever the layer you want to go, right click and say transform. And then you can move it to the where you want to go. So move, you can move these. Oh, I did that wrong. Sorry. Let's see why it's not working. Transform, arrange. Let's see. Oh, let's do that again. Right click, arrange, send to current layer. All right, so there now it's on that layer, so I turn it off. So that can be very helpful because you're working and you want things, layers are your best friends, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do is on your box, so your assignment is going to be, you're going to be designing your own box. I want you to then put your own logo on it, right? So that's going to be your assignment. But what I want you to be able to do then is take your logo and be able to put it on your own own items. And you do that by creating an Illustrator and then exporting it as a PNG file.